crest, 2-3 millimeters above. So from the crest will be 8 millimeters if it's like 5 millimeters. And I extend, if it's one tooth, I extend 2 millimeters away from the adjacent teeth. And how much higher? All the way to the zygoma. So a good flap. The purpose of these burrs that you see is to take away the bone but don't perforate. Not cutting to the Schneiderian membrane. And that's why when they do the they try them on eggs because they want to show you that it doesn't tear the membrane. So the purpose of these burrs is not to perforate. Once you are through the bone, there are the stoppers too. Depending on the thickness, you can use from 0.5 millimeter to 1 to 2 to 2.5 and 3. Usually, the buccal plate of the sinus is about 1 to 2 millimeters. It's not going to be any deeper than that. So those are the ones that by the time you're getting to 2, you're ready, and you see the Schneiderian membrane. And you can collect bone from these burrs too. Then, as soon as you see that Schneiderian membrane, you have to reflect them. They are special curettes with 2 angulations rather than 1 angulation. And the purpose of those is to go to the bone, pressing on the bone, lifting the Schneiderian membrane. And when you lift, you're lifting first the floor, you're lifting medially and distally, and you're going medially too. And after you lift it up, if you see, like I said, perforation, minimal perforation, it's not an issue. If it's a bigger perforation, you put a collagen membrane at the top of the Schneiderian membrane, pack bone medially, place the implants, pack bone laterally, put a membrane over the window and suture. Okay, so that's what they're showing here. You don't fill it all the way this way. You fill it first medially, place the implant, then place it laterally. I'm going to skip those because we're not going to go through these. We don't have the kits, right, Austin? We don't have
we can actually show them.
Show them, right?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can show them the kit.
So, Schneiderian membrane, lift it up, put the bone, place the implant, cover the bone outside and close. Collagen membrane. Like I said, the posterior superior alveolar artery, you gotta be careful with it. And this is how you can appreciate it from the slide. See that? That's a greater palatine, and that's a posterior superior alveolar artery. So in a case like this, I would definitely try to do it crestal, then lateral. I tracked, same as you track the inferior alveolar canal on the mandible, you can track this in the maxilla.
What happens if you poke the artery?
It bleeds.
How do you
heavily.
control that?
So, of course, the problem with this artery is that it's not in a way where you can compress it. It's in the Schneiderian. It could be in the window, and then after you take the window, it's in the soft tissues or Schneiderian membrane. There's no bone and packing. It's hard to pack. So, cauterization.
Electric
Cauterization. It's hard to put pressure on it. The bleeding can be for long time, and those are procedures where you have to get into the hospital most of the time. So it's not an easy procedure to handle in the office. Those are the cases where you refer them out to the emergency department. This is not something you'll handle in the office. So it's important. It doesn't happen. It's not common, but it's something you have to appreciate and understand and be careful with. With Crestal approach, the decision making is the width. I need to have width. I don't care about the height. So what's the minimum height that I can do an internal sinus lift with?
5 millimeters?
5 millimeter, right? That's what you hear, right? I can do it with 1 or 2 millimeters. Why? Because what matters, and I don't go in the sinus, by the way. It doesn't go in the sinus. But what matters is the width and the type of bone. So if I'm doing an osteotomy and I know it's a thinner bone, 2 millimeters bone, I'm not going to do an osteotomy. I'm going to place the implant, and the implant is going to engage the bone. So after a 3 millimeter drill or so, I'll put in my 5 millimeter drill implant, and I'm placing my implant in this 3 millimeter hole. So I'm grabbing the bone with my implant. So I'm getting stability this way. That's what counts, the width. When you don't have width, that's a problem. That's when you can have a problem with the implant going in the sinus. So the width is the factor. So in the internal sinus lift kit, you've got, the Hyacinth kit has those osteotomy drills that non-end cutting, of course.
Doctor, do you hand torque that in, or you use the drill to torque that implant in?
It depends. It depends. It depends. I can do either or. There's no preferred way to do it. Either or. It depends on your tactile sensation, what's your preference, but I can do it with the handpiece as good as I can do it with my hand.
So what you're saying is with the implant, you're splitting the ridge as well as doing a sinus lift at the same
It's
time.
not splitting, it's splitting as much as condensing.
I see.
It's like compacting.
Mm.
It's like when you do an osteotomy in the maxilla for a 5 millimeter implant, you're not going all the way to the last drill because you want to compact that bone because it's compactable because it's cancellous, and you're gonna engage more with the implant with the drill. One size is smaller than the implant. But in the mandible, in the cortical, you're using the 5 millimeter drill for the 5 millimeter implant, and you also need to use the bone tapping drill, the dense bone drill, to make it even wider so that the implant will go all the way to depth, right?
Did you still use the water to push the membrane up when you did that Crestal with the 3 millimeter height?
Always,
Yeah.
because
So you did push it
because
up,
the
so-
idea is, I'll go over the technique now, but as soon as you see, because not all sinus doors are horizontal, right?
Right.
Most of them will be angled. So you will have perforation here. You go through the sinus floor here, but not here. As soon as you feel it, something with your probe, you want to lift it. You want to lift up here.
Okay. And use the
So, what speed do you use these with?
Low speed.
So, let's say it's a 5 millimeter
height.
height. What speed are you using the MERS with? The high speed or slow speed? Slow speed. You do high speed until you get, let's say, your 5 millimeter. You measure 5 millimeter. You go 4 millimeter high speed. Then you go slow. Why? Because when you go slow that millimeter, you will feel as soon as you get no resistance. When you do it high speed, it's hard to tell. It's hard to be able to appreciate that. When you do slow speed, you can feel it better. You'll go slow, and you'll feel that it's jumped up. That's a time where you can check. That's the time where you can flush. And one thing you can let the patient know, if you feel like liquid in your nose or your throat, let me know. Okay? and then you look in and you tell them to breathe in and out, and you will see the membrane going up and down. Those are the two things you can test with it: perforation or no perforation. So you see those three colors: the green, the blue, and the red. Most likely in the sinus lift, you're doing a premolar or a molar, which is either 3.5 to 5 if it's a molar. So I go with the 2.8. I start with the 2.8. Let's see, we're on 5 millimeter, right? So I start with the 3.2 with the 2.8 after the pilot drill, and get a 3 millimeter stopper. Then I go to 3.1 and change it to the 4 millimeter stopper and check. And then go to the 3.3 and go to the 5 millimeter and check. So I'm going one step stopper deeper, one step wider at the same time. But when I'm doing at the 5, that's when I'm going slow. Let's say I did 5 and still I have bone all around, which by the way happens a lot. Happens a lot. Because you'll be, when you get measurements on CT scans, you'll always see that whatever you measure, you have a little extra actually in the surgery. So let's say you measure 5 and you use the 5 millimeter stopper. And maybe also the ridge itself is curved, so you won't be able to get all the way the 5 millimeter because the ridge is curved too. So you would check slowly around the 360 of the osteotomy to make sure there is no. If you notice one spot that is went through, that's when you start pumping. If there's all solid all around, I go with the 3.8 and going 6 millimeter now. And usually that's when I see some or feel some or all of the Schneiderian membrane. And that's when I pump it. How do I pump? You have to have two hands, one holding these, they call them membrane lifter. It has an end that is metal there, with the hemostat pressuring the osteotomy, and the second hand pushing. Assistant or yourself if you're retracting. How much do I push? I push half a cc and back. 1 cc back, 1.5 cc and back. Slowly. Not like you're doing a lidocaine injection, a little faster though. But not, so slowly, half a cc, 1.5. Then you place your powder bone, and when you place your powder bone, it's sometimes gets stuck because you have a channel, you have powder bone going in and it doesn't go up, so it gets stuck. When you use your compactors or what have you, it gets stuck. How do you clean it up? A probe. A probe is the best instrument to clear it up. You're not going 10 millimeter with the probe on the 5 millimeter. You're just going the 5 millimeter just to clear it up and it will go in and you can push more.
Just a point of clarification. When you're saying 0.5 cc's of saline,
the syringe you
right,
have
right.
has measurements.
Do you, because I was in the middle of surgery and I didn't know what to do. I drew up 0.5 cc's in the syringe, but then I attached the hose. Well, when I pushed it, the hose got filled with 0.5 cc's worth of volume. So what you're saying is you filled the line.
That's a very good point. That's
Yeah.
a very good point. You have to push. You have to fill it with 2.5 cc's, 3
Yes.
cc's.
Yeah, you fill the line.
You keep
until-
pushing until you get saline out of the membrane lifter,
And so you're making
and you have
notes.
inside the syringe 1.5 cc. If you have 1.5 cc, by the time you push all the 1.5 cc, it will be in the membrane filled. Nothing went in the sinus.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good question. Thank you. Good question. So yeah, you have to fill it up. So number 3 is a bone carrier. Now in those kits there are bone carriers or no?
There should be in the kits underneath the tray.
Okay, so that bone carrier, because the older kits didn't have didn't have them. The newer kits have them. The bone carriers are angulated nicely. You can turn it, angulate it the way you want it, and close it. It's a carrier. It makes it easier to place those powders in. We'll try them in. You'll find an easy way to handle it than before. That's the incremental here, the bone grafting. You don't have to use the bone spreader. They're not in the. Do you have bone spreaders there? You're not gonna need those. You're not gonna need those. That's the